From the BBC World Service, in association with ABC and All India Radio, this is Stumped.
Hello and welcome to Stumped, your intercontinental hit of news, features and debate from the quirky world of cricket. I'm Alison Mitchell in London, where I've been knee-deep researching for an event I'm going to be working on that I have never been involved with before. I'll tell you more about that next week. But in the meantime, very excited for the Women's World Cup starting over in New Zealand. Although it's been pretty hard to concentrate on much, what with the events going on much closer to home here in Europe, in Ukraine. But I have to say, Jim and Charu, having you to speak to is a very welcome distraction.
Yes, sport is a bit of a distraction when these events occur. So the distraction here is the water. If you're not amphibious, you just won't survive. I mean, there's so much water in southeast Queensland, northern New South Wales, floods everywhere. Even on the verge of Sydney, we've got floods at the moment. We've had a bucket load of rain, and they've already called all the cricket off in Sydney yesterday for the weekend. So that's how bad it is. So hopefully we'll dry out at some point. But at the moment, the only time it stops is for the clouds to go away and get a refill and dump on us again.
Hello, everybody. This is Charu Sharma for All India Radio. Glad to be here because we've got the Davis Cup on this weekend. India taking on Denmark, and we're playing at on a grass surface here at the Delhi Gymkhana Club, where in fact there was a special edition of Stump some time back. The courts have been prettied up and readied for this wonderful contest. But of course, plenty of cricket too. India can't seem to put a foot wrong against the West Indies earlier, against the Sri Lankans in white ball cricket, and now it's a little bit of red ball cricket here as well, which is an important one amongst others for Virat Kohli. We'll see how that goes.
Right, we are going to start this week's show with the Women's 50 Over World Cup because it's getting underway in New Zealand 391 days after it was originally meant to happen. Of course, it was postponed due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic. 8 teams are taking part, and only England, Australia and the host New Zealand have ever lifted the Women's World Cup trophy. So we wonder this time whether a new name could end up being on the trophy. Now, I've been speaking to Andrea Nelson, who's the chief executive of the ICC Women's World Cup, and she's been telling me how she's feeling about the event and the preparations put in place. Well, Andrea, the World Cup has finally come around, and now that all the preparation has been done, how are you feeling about things?
Look, it's been a journey longer than we expected at the outset, and it's had many twists and turns. So finally be at the action point of this tournament is... I can't tell you how excited the team and I are to make it happen, and to see the athletes here in Christchurch and around New Zealand. It's just a real buzz for us.
How challenging has it been, given that the original tournament was postponed due to the pandemic back in 2020?
When we set out to do this tournament, we talked about what we wanted to achieve, and that was to kind of own our moment on the journey of women's sport and kind of showcase New Zealand's bit in that journey. And we are the first of 3 World Cups that are happening here. So it's a really exciting moment in time. That really sustained us through what has been a really challenging couple of years. You know, we initially were postponed for very good reasons due to the kind of lack of the ability of the teams to prepare and qualify. And this is...
And I said 2020, but it's 2021, of course, the original date, wasn't it?
Yeah, 2021. We would have been wrapped up last year. And you know, it's such an important event on the women's cricket calendar that it was important that the teams had the chance to prepare well, and some of the teams weren't even able to gather at that point. So it was the right decision to postpone. New Zealand's been on its own journey. You know, we've had a different COVID journey to many other countries, and so there've been many twists and turns along the way. So as I say, I'm just so excited we're finally here.
Yeah, what is the actual situation in New Zealand COVID-wise at the moment? What conditions will the players be operating under when the tournament gets going?
Yeah, so unfortunately, we are in our first real COVID wave that has happened here in New Zealand. So previously, the country undertook a more of a zero COVID policy, but obviously with the emergence of Omicron, we're currently experiencing a wave, the biggest New Zealand's ever seen. But broadly speaking, it's not significantly different to the way cricket's operated around the world for the last 2 years. So whilst here in New Zealand, it can be a bit of an unusual time, the players are living you know, in a managed event environment, so that we're looking after them in their hotels, they're flying domestic charters. You know, there's the ability to get out and about and do safe activities. New Zealand is a lovely outdoor country with lots of space and lots of fun things you can do without being in crowded environments. So we're really looking after the team's well-being in that way. And then in terms of the crowds, I guess the biggest impact for us is at the moment. At the moment I'm talking to you, and it could change at any point really. We are operating with really reduced crowds. So we can bring people in pods of 100, and they each need to have their own sort of services. So it means the numbers are restricted right down to probably below 10% capacity in reality at a lot of our venues.
And that's such a shame, isn't it? When there was the record crowd at the MCG for the T20 World Cup, and prior to that, the 2017 World Cup the final was played out in front of a sold out Lords. So how are you, in a way, are you able to somehow compensate for the lack of crowds?
Well, I guess firstly, it's a long tournament and things change. So, we're not necessarily assuming this will be the case throughout the event, and working really hard to maximise the number of people we can bring in. But yeah, we were on track to sell out several games at this tournament, not just the final. And, the White Ferns are obviously having a great run of form at the moment, and the local interest is really high. So we're working really hard with all of our partners here to bring it to life for New Zealanders. There's an increased free-to-air television broadcast of it, where digital channels are working really hard. We've got billboards that will show the live scores, and opportunities to do things online. So we're really doing everything we can to grow that excitement. But I am an eternal optimist. So, as I speak today, I can't tell you for sure that we won't have those sold out crowds at the end.
Well, that's one of the things as an event organizer, I'm keen to ask, how do you plan for things which are outside of your control? Because as you say, things, could easily change between, now and the midway point of the tournament and the end of the tournament.
I think, Alison, at any point in the last 2 years, what we thought would happen has changed almost monthly. So the one big lesson I've learned in this environment is you can't really get too stuck on your plans. You've got to be really focused on what are you trying to achieve. And for us, it is where I started, that thing of owning our moment on that amazing global story of women's sport just taking off across every code, but cricket really at the heart of that. You talk about Lords, that was a game-changing event globally, and the MCG, I was lucky enough to be there for that final. So we need to do that kind of, we need to do honour to that history and take it to the next step in the way that we can. And the environment we're in, it might be great, it might not be great. We just have to make the best of what we've got and hand it on to the next host to take it further.
Yeah, do you feel that, this seems to have been a particularly big year for women's sport, doesn't it?
Yeah, look, and I can't tell you enough here in New Zealand. We have our Deputy Prime Minister, who's also our Minister of Sport, laid out when the government was first elected that women in sport was the number one priority for them. And it is absolutely true in the way sport is developing here. We're a few years behind England in some ways in professionalisation of some of our codes, but we have 3 World Cups. So we've got this one. Later this year, we have rugby. Next year, we're co-hosting the FIFA World Cup with Australia. That is going to be a total step change. We're talking about supercharging years of development in women's sport. But also, I'd really, cricket is such a leader in this space. The domestic competition, the Super Smash here, has been played out with double headers, often with the women playing second on primetime free-to-air television. And the impact that's had, I'll tell you, this summer when I was playing cricket with my 6-year-old nephew and he hit a 6, he yelled out, "Sophie Devine!" And yes. I thought, well, that shows you that things are changing.
Yeah, and that's interesting because the 100 is going down that route in the English summer this season, with flipping some of those double headers and having the women on second up. And you've got vast experience in event planning and major events because you've worked across the Olympics, football and rugby. Have there been particular challenges, or just how different has the experience been of organising a major cricket event?
Yeah, look, I think every event you work on has its own sort of challenges and opportunities. I'd worked in rugby league, and one of the amazing things there was bringing together Pacific Island culture in New Zealand, which is such a strong part of the community, but often not very visible. And, through that tournament, I don't know if you saw over there, Tonga were just a revelation. We had 5,000 people turn up at 1 a.m. to meet them at the airport. It was a month-long party across New Zealand. So, that was the opportunity there. Of course, the London Olympics, I was so lucky that I was part of that from the bid right the way through to the end. With the exclusion of the 2 maternity leaves I had to have my children in that period. So, every event is different. This one, I think, it's safe to say the COVID environment for every sports organiser and every sports administrator is a massive challenge. And anyone who says it isn't, I just don't believe them, But ultimately, what I've really learned from it is you just got to focus on what you can control and what you want to achieve, and don't let the barriers get in your way. You just got to keep going.
And one of the significant things about this tournament is the prize money being doubled by the ICC compared to what it was in 2017. And that is a significant step, isn't it?
Absolutely. And before 2017, I believe it was $200,000. And so the growth in that is phenomenal. And that's where I think it's not just the prize money. You know, here in New Zealand, we hosted the World Cup in 2000. We won. And at that home World Cup, the girls were staying in student accommodation. They were all balloted out. You know, they were playing at great. New Zealand doesn't have bad cricket grounds, to be honest. They're all pretty fantastic, but very small, you know, out of town or second grounds. But now here for this tournament, the girls are staying in 4 to 5 star accommodation. They're flying business class to come in. They're training at the best training facilities. They're playing at the best cricket grounds. And that comes about when cricket's really investing in women's sport. You know, it's not lip service. You know, when you're actually putting that concrete investment in, and it makes a massive difference to the quality of the cricket I think we're going to see.
Yeah, and that 2000 tournament and 2005 were both played before the ICC took over the running of the game. So it's sort of that significant rise, isn't it, over the years of investment of the game moving forward. What do you want, Andrea, the legacy of this tournament to be?
Yeah, so we've got some really amazing physical legacies here in New Zealand. And one thing I'm particularly proud of, and it was actually when I went for my job interview for this role, I talked about the fact that female athletes often can't change at the facilities after they perform because the toilets don't have cubicles, the showers don't have walls or doors. As a result of this tournament, all of the facilities at all of our venues are now female friendly. So that's a fantastic huge physical investment.
That's sort of a small thing. You just imagine that is in place anyway.
Well, yeah, you'd think so, but you talk at Eden Park, there were 2 cubicles. So if you imagine even the rugby team going on to play, having to queue up or use the public loos, it shows you sometimes it's the small things. And on top of that, we've got, you know, new lights at Hagley Oval. So the final will be under lights here in Christchurch. And then you might know Christchurch was really significantly impacted by the earthquakes. So, you know, to see that rebuild, it really is going to bring international cricket here for generations to come. But I think the biggest legacy is the profile of the sport, of the players. And for, you know, I'm the mother of 2 boys and one of them is a total cricket nut. And he sees no difference between, you know, Kane Williamson and Sophie Devine. To him, they are the same. And that's the legacy I think that we can leave as an event and as part of the journey of women's cricket.
And if I can get you to put a cricket punditry hat on to finish with, mention New Zealand winning in 2000. It's the only time that a country other than England and Australia has lifted the trophy. With your New Zealand heart beating in your chest, do you think they could cause an upset?
Look, I think it would be an upset, but absolutely, I think they can cause it. I've had the privilege of getting to know the women in the Whitebirds a little bit over the last couple of years, and they're incredibly impressive. You know, and a real combination of some long-standing talent and some new up-and-coming faces. So they've got the advantage of knowing the grounds. They have been playing, as you see, 4-1 against India in the recent one-day series. They've been playing over the summer at these grounds. So if they're going to be able to pull it off, this is the tournament they'll be able to do it in. And as a tournament organizer, I will welcome any winner, but as a Kiwi, I will, of course, be backing the Whitebirds.
Andrea, an absolute pleasure speaking to you, and best wishes for the tournament. We'll be following it, of course, very closely on Stumped.
Thank you, Alison.
That's Andrea Nelson, the Chief Executive of the ICC Women's World Cup. So just a few things, Jim and Cher, I want to pick up on what she was saying there. And the first one is, I suppose, that question of legacy, but firstly, the way the tournament is distributed and how widely it will be seen, free to air on television in New Zealand, no less, but around the world as well. But just simply for New Zealand, Jim, it's going to be a huge boost for women's game, for women's sport in the country.
Well, yes, as women's cricket has been in most countries where it's had success, and it's not just Australia, but also with India and Pakistan coming into it, the West Indies, England, South Africa. Yes, it'll be a big boost. An even bigger one, given that New Zealand, as it were, squandered an opportunity in men's cricket to beat South Africa for the first time ever in a test series. By being outplayed, if we can put it that way, with a strange-looking bowling attack that didn't have a spinner in it in the test in Christchurch. So now that all the attention in terms of cricket can switch to what's happening with the New Zealand women's team, which clearly at home is going to be powerful. Just go on Sophie Devine's little warm-up the other day against Australia when they splattered the Australian bowlers and won the game by 9 wickets, chasing over 300. So that's all important. The tough bit for the profile of this tournament in New Zealand is that Super Rugby started, right? So they've got a bit of competition there because, rugby's the number one Anne's Pants game in New Zealand. But they've got their window of opportunity. And as you've said, if it's on free-to-air TV, that makes a big difference.
Well, that's all we've got time for on this week's Stumped here on All India Radio. Don't forget you can follow us throughout the week on Twitter. We're at BBCWS Sport. Just use the hashtag BBC Stumped. And of course, you can watch us on YouTube as well. Just search for the BBC World Services YouTube channel. My thanks to Charu Sharma and Jim Maxwell. And of course, to you all for listening and watching. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
From the BBC World Service, in association with ABC and All India Radio, this is Stumped.